What is going on, everybody? It's Patty XRP here with
Mickey be fresh.
yeah, and we got some. Of course, we start another live stream, kind of like with the Flare Finance one, right? As some really big news is coming out when we had the white paper drop that one night. But we're
Yeah.
gonna have David Schwartz and Matt Hamilton just put out some proposals on the XRP Ledger Federated Sidechains, which is probably now going to take up the majority of our stream for the day. So, me and Mickey will kind of be going through this really for the first time with you guys on stream and just breaking it down for everybody. So kind of a different flavor than what we normally do. But before we get into that, Mickey, I do just want to give a brief announcement for any Ledger Nano users out there. So Towo Labs tweeted out a picture from the GitHub for Ledger. And basically, they have a ticket out for adding support for the Flare network, Spark token, FLR is the ticker, and it's merged. And this is a program from Tolo Labs that they set up. So I'm hoping that this means that they are going to have Ledger Nano support is going to have the Spark token, natively on Ledger Live, so that you can access it from your Ledger like you would do XRP, Bitcoin, and everything. And thanks Tom T for sharing that with me in the Fresh Perspectives group. It's much appreciated. Um, Anything on this, Mickey? I mean, I think it's just a good step. Hopefully.
Yes, I think this is a good step. I think Ledger is getting pressured by a lot of the users, XRP holders, and soon to be Spark holders. And I think that's good. And the more pressure that the community puts on them, the more likely they're going to support. Otherwise, they know they're going to lose users. And Towo Labs put in the work to build the app just the way we say win and Towo Labs built the toolkit to allow the claim to happen. Ledger didn't do any of that for you. That was all the XRP community did that. So keep in mind, that's what's going on now. It's just basically Ledger approving it, but I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, and just a friendly reminder that Toa Labs is going to be a signal provider on the Flare network, and they provided a lot of different like infrastructure stuff. They're obviously working on the Bifrost wallet as well, so they'll be an interesting firm to be watching like as the
They
network
do have
develops.
They do have their own token actually on the XRP ledger. If you do get the Zum wallet, you could actually buy it. It's called XTK, I think. So I don't know what that's going to be necessarily used for. It's kind of got a little description of it on the Zum wallet. I forgot it off the top of my head. I don't have any. It's not financial advice. Just pointing that out there that they do have their token on the ledger. So just to add in with what you said.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they seem to be like working in a lot of different areas. So I just think it's interesting. We've kind of seen their skill on display in various areas. So when you go into, analyzing a signal provider, that's some of the stuff that you can look to before they actually have a track record of how good their price estimates are to the FTSO. But yeah, after addressing that, we can kind of get into the meat of
Mm-hmm.
this live stream. And I will say that Mickey's on the phone, and I'm gonna have this like pulled up on my other monitor, so it's gonna be hard for us to keep up with the chat in the meantime. So just bear with us on that.
Yeah, and this is also the first literally where I'm just reading this blog now that just came out from David Schwartz, who wrote this about federated sidechains. So we're going through it with you at the same time. Patty will have it up on the screen, but we haven't really read through this and fully digested it yet. So we're going to be doing that basically on the live stream here.
Yeah, they probably have a even more deeper dive video in the future on top of this, but this can be a good
Yeah, maybe
start.
we'll make a recorded video later on this
Yeah.
because this is something, I've talked about and Patty, you've talked about too, but I've really talked about this in the last, couple of weeks that these federated side chains, this is how Ripple's going to create use cases because it even says here. So let's start out reading some of this blog, Patty, I guess. So over the last 9 years, the XRP community has been committed to advancing the innovation and forward progress of the XRP ledger to dramatically increase the decentralization, performance, and feature set. Among the most requested features we have heard from developers and contributors to the XRP ledger is smart contract capabilities brought about by the exponential growth in decentralized finance, DeFi. In fact, the number of DeFi developers has grown 110% since 2019. and that is projected to grow well beyond 2021. However, we at Ripple have long advocated against this feature that would compromise the XRP ledger's highly efficient focus on payments. Today, we are proposing a strategy that enables best of both worlds, federated sidechains for the XRP ledger. This will enable developers to implement new features such as native smart contracts that interoperate seamlessly with XRP and the XRP ledger, while also allowing the XRP ledger to maintain its existing lean and efficient feature set. Federated sidechains allow for experimentation and specialization, so developers can enjoy the power of the XRPL on a sidechain that acts as its own blockchain. For example, imagine the potential to branch out into new functionality, slimming down the XRPL's features to a specific subset for a particular use case, or even creating a private parallel network for a permission blockchain. Now I'm throwing my opinion here. That's the CBDC.
Yeah.
When they say private ledgers, this is those federated sidechains. So this is how they're creating the so-called private ledger, is through these federated sidechains, but they're going to make specialized versions for specialized use cases. So there'll be like a specific use case, like say real estate tokenization will have its own federated sidechain for that specific use case, and its own smart contract, maybe language even, just for that. So it could be even much more powerful actually than even like Ethereum is. Like Flare's great for what it's doing, but they're really narrowing this down to specialization. Federated sidechains could very well make this a reality. I don't know, do you want to read through how it works, Bart?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll kind of add on to this.
Or do you want me to just keep reading?
Well, I was going to say, I'll add on to this first part since we've kind of, before we get into how it works farther. Um, Yeah, I mean, I just think like the ability to specialize on different side chains where maybe different levels of decentralization are needed is a great way to scale the XRP ledger into the future. So, like one thing is if we're in a world where, billions and billions of, I don't know, even trillions one day of transactions are going through micropayments and all things like that, being able to scale out the XRP ledger into different chains for specific use cases seems like definitely a solution to try and accomplish that without updating the consensus to configure in a way that would make the transactions per second scale more. So I find that interesting. And then also like the CBDC thing is probably the biggest use case because we know that they have their the Ripple like CBDC toolkit where you can plug into the XRP ledger and build directly on there. I would imagine that's going to include a way to set up a federated sidechain for a private version of the XRP ledger. And also, I want to add, Mickey, so in regards to this is like the same XRP as the originally minted XRP on the
Yes.
XRP ledger, right? We're not
Yes,
like creating new
same
XRP on a
XRP.
different chain.
Nope, same XRP, which means the same price. So anyone who ever tells you that there's different XRP price, baloney. All right. Always the same XRP price. That's what makes markets go around. There's no secret price for XRP. It'll, even if it's trading on another sidechain, arbitrage will always kick in. There'll always be the same XRP. There won't be like a secret XRP price that's used on the CBC price chain. It just doesn't work like that. So let's go further into the depths of how this fundamentally works here. Because this probably it will tie into PolySign somehow.
I was wondering if Codius could play in too.
Well, this is a vision. You know what this is? So let's just stop right there. So this is kind of the extension of the Codius vision and what Ripple used to call gateways. So Stellar took the model and said, hey, we're going to just go with the gateway model and make all these anchors right on Stellar. Now, XRPL is taking a different approach the way Ripple's going about it and building out these federated side chains instead of putting all gateways on the ledger. And in this way, they'll be able to be more regulatory compliant and they'll be able to be more specific. So as you know, Stellar and XRPL were born similar, they're really going in different directions of how they're getting built out. So I think that's just an important thing to just understand between the two different blockchains.
Yeah, it's also interesting that their paths are splitting, as they've
Mm-hmm.
evolved more because obviously like Jed and the
Mm-hmm.
original founders, had some disagreements and, they're kind of going off in their own directions now. So it'll be interesting to see how like what Jed took as an original creator, as well as like, Schwartz and Chris Larson and Arthur Brito,
Mm-hmm.
their creation that they maintain going on.
Mm-hmm. I
So
think this was under the work and in the works for a while now.
yeah, I think
This
that
is
makes
part of their
sense.
vision, and now they're really releasing it because RippleNet is kind of this already. So let's get into it a little more to understand how it actually works and what a federator is.
Cool. Yeah, I can start off. So, in order to understand the vision for federated sidechains, it is first important to define a federator, which is a piece of software that connects to at least two instances of the XRP ledger software. So, you can see in this graphic here, they have the sidechains on both sides of like the OG XRP ledger, and in between is a federator. So, it's connecting to both sides there. And then what does it say? The federator software means anyone who wanted to could run a sidechain to the XRP ledger. On one side, the federator is connected to XRP ledger mainnet. On the other side, it connects to one or more sidechains. The federator
Mm,
would be run only by parties who operate validators on at least one sidechain. So that's interesting. You could have the same federator operating for multiple sidechains
yeah, this is why
simultaneously. Yeah.
this is interesting because in some of the Ripple Swell, if anyone saw the regional Swell PDF that came out, it didn't get circulated around a lot, but it showed Ripple running a validation service. And this kind of really makes sense on that validation service, why you would need something like that, because it would be to connect the private ledgers together with the main ledger.
Yeah, so they could probably help you. Let's say you're going to make like a private side chain. Basically, they could
Mm-hmm.
help you spin up all the validators
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're kind of, just building an entire platform and helping you, like, very easily get everything set up. So that's
Yeah.
definitely
Think about for
interesting.
enterprises, like say somebody wanted to run a supply chain enterprise blockchain off of the XRP ledger. Now they could create their own private version off of the XRP ledger, but it connects to it. So this really expands every possible use case. And so what Larson said, it's not just about payments. Payments is at the center of everything. And now you could spin all these use cases around it. And you could build these enterprise platforms, you could build retail platforms, you could build all types of DeFi platforms, centralized platforms, whatever platform you want. You could create like your own private version. So I think this is the vision that happened after the fallout with R3.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yep. And then also, like, just to remember, all of this stuff is going to be connected to the Flare network. So you have a lot,
Yeah.
a lot potentially going on here in the future.
Mm.
But to continue on, so the vision is that each side chain would function as its own blockchain. They'd have their own ledger and transactions just as the XRP ledger does. What makes them side chains is the federation system, which allows XRP and issued tokens to move from one chain to another. Federated sidechains could use XRP as their primary asset. In that case, people could use the federation system to move XRP from the XRP ledger to the sidechain. Then the moved XRP could be used on the sidechain just as it is on the main chain. Anyone could move XRP from either chain to the other. Alternatively, sidechains could use their own native asset, a la CBDCs, added that in. But so people with accounts on both ledgers could move XRP to and from the issued asset on the sidechain. So I don't know if you have anything to add there, Mickey, but yeah, very clear that XRP will be able to be used on these sidechains.
Yes. So what I see with this is just massive capabilities for tokenization. So you'll be able to tokenize pretty much anything and issue all types of assets, but it won't have to go on the main public blockchain. And I know one thing that probably came from some people listening to that. Oh my God, they could spin up another version of XRP. Okay, yes, but there's no still market for it. So I don't think that's like a concern or an effort that's trying to be put out here. But we can see more investable opportunities, I think. And that's how I look at it. And some people might say, well, they're going to want to make another version of XRP just for the banks. And I don't think that works because then you still need to drive the whole liquidity in it. And the whole point is that XRP already has all the liquidity. So, and it's the main chain. So, and it will always be the main chain.
Yeah, just think about how many, years that, the developers and Ripple have taken to get, the XRP ledger to where they want it. I feel like to think that they could just spin that up overnight on a side chain and it run as smoothly as
Mhm,
possible. I mean, it kind of would take away like the whole decentralization that's been built out on the XRP ledger, which makes it, so powerful.
mhm.
So yeah, I feel like it's much more difficult than it is to say it.
Yeah, I think that the only on the types of issued assets would have a counterparty, or they'd be issued by like that side chain. So think of it like, CBDCs, for example. That's a perfect use case for. Or, there could be some other kind of DeFi governance token that's just for that side chain. So we could see like governance tokens that, the XRP ledger does lack this governance functionality in some ways on certain specific parameters, and how Flare built governance in some of these side chains if they're just for one use case. So think of like the Flare finance ecosystem. We could see that on the XRP ledger now with its own governance token. So what it does have is, I think, potentially more investable opportunities. And I guess I can't go without saying that Ripple acquired that Logos team, but with that team, they acquired a super fast blockchain too. So that Logos blockchain can easily be another sidechain built for a specific use case, maybe a digital marketplace for NFTs and things like that. That's what I think we could see on some of these sidechains too, use case wise. Forte,
Yeah, Forte Gaming, absolutely.
yeah,
That seems like it
gaming.
fit all the NFT stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. And I'll kind of move into the functionality here. So, federated assets imported onto the XRP ledger itself would trade on the XRP ledger's integrated decentralized exchange. So, that would be a federated asset, could, in theory, be a CBDC that would then get imported onto the XRP ledger if it needed or somebody wanted to trade it there. That's just an example, but wanted to throw that in there. XRP imported onto sidechains would be used for liquidity on their integrated DEX as well. Okay, so I mean, kind of going back to what we just said there, Vicky, they would just import XRP over to one of the side chains if they wanted to use it. And that way, like you could still exchange through XRP if you want, but that's still putting, demand on the XRP token because somebody needs to use it, which, in the end also puts upward pressure on price. So I kind of want to just point that out that governments could set up their own swap lines on a side chain if they wanted to and still use like the actual XRP token. Obviously, very theoretical, but I'm just kind of throwing that out there since this is kind of a new world for the ledger that we're going into.
Oh yeah, new
Yeah.
world is right.
Yeah.
Got a lot more to learn now, everybody.
Hey,
Going
that's
to
the
be constant.
constant
This is
change.
the world we live in, and it's going to constantly change. Like what you thought you knew all about the ledger, now you got something else to learn, and it's just the way it is.
I mean, this
So,
kind of just blew up everything that we
yeah,
kind of thought or knew before. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it
hey, it
adds a
makes it
whole new
interesting.
dynamic, makes it very interesting, and it adds a whole new dynamic how they could create these customized smart contract languages just for certain use cases, so they can make them even more powerful than anything that could even sometimes be built on Ethereum alone, because Ethereum is limited to just what it can do on its smart contract language and its Ethereum virtual machine. These could have custom virtualized machines and smart contracts just for those use cases on that side chain. So it does allow more flexibility. I think it's more appealing to institutionals. One thing that's interesting as we go down here further, what part were you on? Did you get through three
So
yet?
I'm at that. So I can read through those three right here and then you want to pick up
Yeah,
your
then I'll
thoughts.
go. Okay.
Cool. This
Yeah.
strategy, so continuing, this strategy requires three things: building a new piece of software or the federator, making two trivial changes to the operation of the live XRP ledger network, and then adding new features to the XRP ledger server software to allow it to operate in a sidechain. However, these features would not be enabled on the XRP ledger itself, so that's the original one. The current recommendation is to fork the XRP ledger software so that new versions of the sidechain software could come out without having to make new versions of the like original XRP ledger software and to reduce risk of harming the XRP ledger.
All right. So interesting on that. Like, for example, Stellar just did a hard fork with their software. and they just had fines. So it's not something that, is a negative. It's just something they have to do, it looks like, to keep the software all aligned.
Yeah, which I mean, we want like when you're putting out these new proposals and things for the XRP ledger, the best way is to avoid minimal extra usage on the original XRP ledger. You want to like make sure the bandwidth isn't overtaking anything because like it does need to be used for a lot of things. And the XRP
Mm-hmm.
ledger, kind
Mm-hmm.
of like how people think of XRP as like the bridge between currencies. Well, now it's about to be the original XRP ledger as the bridge between side chains that get built out. Um, so moving on, it says each sidechain would have a trust account on the XRP Ledger mainnet. So I assume that's very similar to like a trust line. And this account can hold assets on the XRP Ledger on behalf of users of the sidechain. The account would use a multi-sign or threshold key, with the signers being the validators of the sidechain. Each sidechain validator operator registers a signing key that signs transactions on the XRP ledger. Thus, the validators of the sidechain can collectively create transaction to manage the sidechain's mainnet account. So it sounds to me like, let's say if you're an individual and you want to go through a sidechain onto the XRP ledger, that you're either going to have to possibly like trust these validators. Now, whether they're in a decentralized or centralized manner is going to be dependent on each side chain. But I'm curious if you have anything on that or if that's kind of the sense you're getting, Mickey.
Well, one thing that I did hear from Matt Hamilton, no, you're right on that. So the multi-site, every sidechain was set up differently. One thing, if they do implement it, hooks onto the main XRP ledger, it would remove some of the trust needed if that gets implemented. And Matt Hamilton did say that. So this sounds like it could be an evolving vision. So initially, it looks like there would be a trust account, one multi-sig. But hooks could replace components of what you just read there, and do it more in a trustless manner if that gets implemented as an amendment later. It's already in testing, so hooks could play a big role in these side chains, connecting them to the XRP ledger with this whole federator system.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, depending on who is using or building out this side chain, I guess they could probably choose between this method or the hooks amendment,
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
dependent on what they're doing. I mean, if it's like a private side chain, they may want to have centralized validators that
Yes.
you would exchange through, or if it's some kind of like DeFi, application built on the side, they probably want it trustless. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So this allows for just massive amounts of flexibility. I mean, I think this is the ultimate type of flexibility where you could create a totally decentralized DeFi ecosystem or digital marketplace, or you could create a digital identity sidechain, or you could create a trade finance sidechain for just that. So I do think it really opens up, the smart contract capabilities to a new level. And we've always known like things like digital asset holdings has their smart contract language that just goes above the blockchains. And this is where a use case could come in just for one sidechain. So this is really just vast on what could be done now. It opens up all possibilities.
Nice. And then moving on, it says the XRP Ledger mainnet has one native asset, obviously XRP, and an unlimited number of issued tokens that can represent anything else but don't have the same status as XRP. So that's issued currencies. So you could think of like, Bitstamp issuing fiat onto the XRP ledger. That's something
Mhm.
that would fall into that category. And then it wouldn't make sense for each sidechain to start with a whole new set of 100 billion XRP. So instead, side chains have two options for their native asset: either have a new native asset for the side chain or set aside some real XRP for use on the side chain. If the side chain uses XRP as its native asset, then the chain's account on the mainnet holds the side chain's total amount of XRP in trust for use in the side chain. If the side chain creates a different native asset, that asset can be issued on the XRP ledger mainnet by the side chain's mainnet account. So essentially, Vicky, I think this is kind of be a situation between if they're trying to make a decentralized side chain versus a centralized private side chain on whether, they're whatever that entity that's building it would use XRP as the native asset there or its own kind of issued currency.
Yeah, I would think of if it's going to use its own native asset, I would think of that as a governance token. like specifically to govern that network possibly, and for rights and for voting. So it really depends on the use case. Some might just need to use XRP, but this also means there could be more investable opportunities for us. And this is one of the things we've been saying for a while. So within the XRP ecosystem, Flare was born, and Flare, all these new investable opportunities that, you know, we're giving airdrops of this token, and then a DeFi ecosystem with Flare Finance. I think the same thing is going to spur off of the XRP ledger now. So I think we look at it as there'll be more investable opportunities, and XRP will have more use case and utility being used on these side chains. It's just less on the exchanges, more utility, actual utility.
Yeah, and I mean, we could probably, in addition to that, like some composability that you would see like in a
Yeah,
DeFi ecosystem
there you
going on
go.
with these side chains. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like just from this, it's like, what exactly is going to be used for and by who? I mean, that's kind of unknown at this point because it could be anybody and somebody may have not thought up a use case yet. So it's really just creating flexibility for the XRP ledger to be used in a number, like a very different number of ways.
Yeah,
Um,
this is definitely a big change. And it's the smart contracts too. Will really allow advanced level of complex smart contracts on these like contained ecosystems.
mhm. And then continuing down, it says the sidechain can hold other assets and tokens issued
Ooh.
natively on the XRP ledger mainnet. Just like with XRP, the sidechain's mainnet account holds the total amount in use on the sidechain. The ownership of that asset within the sidechain can change as a result of the transactions and events in the sidechain that the XRP ledger mainnet never needs to see. Okay, so yeah, the XRP ledger mainnet does not need to like
Mm-hmm.
record everything
Privacy.
happening. Yeah. So whenever an asset, XRP or otherwise, needs to move out of the sidechain, the mainnet account sends that amount of XRP to its intended recipient on the mainnet XRP ledger. So like let's say you obtained some XRP on that sidechain, then you could get that back on the like mainnet of the original XRP ledger. This could even be another sidechain's account, allowing assets to cross from one sidechain through the mainnet to any other sidechain. Conversely, to send funds into a sidechain, you would send funds to that sidechain's mainnet account. So, thinking sidechain through the mainnet to a sidechain, you got a government that has a sidechain off the XRP ledger, issues, does a trade with their currency through the XRP ledger mainnet to the other side chain with some other government, maybe, or just some company in one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction. I think that could be an interesting use case there as well. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is basically expanding on the original gateway model. So they, instead of just using gateways on the exit off ramps, they're building whole side chains out of them. So I think it's just really powerful how they expanded that so much further. And I absolutely think PolySign is involved in this concept of aggregating and how this is going to go down. I just not yet ready to share my opinion on exactly how. I just got to read through. We're literally reading. Everyone knows this is the first time we're reading this. I literally just skimmed it quick, but we're reading this along with you
Yeah.
and throwing our opinion out there.
Yeah. And then, so last part of this section, someone who establishes a new side chain should pick a set of initial validators and have them negotiate appropriate threshold or multi-signing keys. They would then create the sidechain's XRP Ledger mainnet account and set it up so that only sidechain validators' collective signing power can control that account. If the sidechain's validators change, then the mainnet account should change its keys to match the new list of trusted validators. And then it has a note: the XRP Ledger's native multi signing lists are limited to 8 keys or fewer, but threshold keys can support as many signers as necessary for each of the sidechain's validators to be included. Cool.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, David Schwartz always talks about multi-signature and poly-sign, multi-sign. So that definitely fits in with what they've been planning all along.
Yeah, you think they got 8 keys on that multi-signing list for the escrow?
Yeah, exactly. They have 8 keys.
I
Yeah, they
bet.
do.
I bet they would. Yeah.
You can see it publicly. See some of the things. What this allows is an extra layer of privacy too, for certain enterprise use cases, and it will also allow for a regulatory compliant applications. And that's one thing it's really hard to do on like the Ethereum mainnet right now is make things that are fully regulatory compliant. With these side chains, you're going to be able to still get some level of decentralization, governance, and regulatory compliance all in one with the use of XRP. And it's going to be really powerful moving into a world of mass adoption and not just this pre-world of, Ethereum, all different types of like just experiments going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm wondering if they could use sidechains as like test beds now for future features on the XRP ledger. And may
Yeah,
not
I mean,
operate the exact same, but they could at least test out how people would interact with maybe some kind of incentive mechanism or something like that.
well, yeah, what they do have at the moment right now, there's a full test net on the XRP ledger they
Hmm.
could use, and a dev net, which allows you to implement advanced feature sets before they're actually implemented on the XRP ledger. So Ripple and the open source community devs for XRP ledger have created these in the last 2 years. So in preparation, they have a dev net. You could go on xrpledger.org and see the DevNet's live transactions, and that's where Hooks was implemented first. Then it goes in the test net. So they are in preparation. How the side chains affect it with smart contracts, I think that's like the next level.
Oh, well, guess what, Mickey? So I'm looking at the next section, advantages, and they kind of answer the question.
Oh,
So
nice.
with this
Okay.
software, anyone can choose to run a sidechain to the XRP ledger. For developers, it unlocks new
Ooh.
use cases like native DeFi capabilities and smart contracts. Developers can also build and launch blockchain features that are baked into these sidechains. In the future, successful features could even be ported to the XRP ledger mainnet. So there you go.
I think this has to do a little with, I mean, can't, I guess when we talk about like the agent system and the minting of F assets, when we think of, how that process is going to work here, I think this could be part of that. And it could be why they're leaving out pieces
I mean,
of the whole agent system with the bridge.
100%. Yeah, because we've been thinking like, these agents are going to have a ton of XRP that they're custodying if, people
Yeah,
are minting a lot of FXRP. And it's like, what can you do with that? Well, maybe these side chains
there
can
you go.
provide some options for agents
Hmm.
and making it like lucrative to where they're wanting to custody that XRP and allow people to mint F assets. So
Yeah,
I think it's just very
yeah.
interesting.
That's the composability nature of DeFi and the power of just not locking up that XRP, utilizing it in a way without rehypothecating, but utilizing the value still. And I think they definitely have composability with the Flare network being built next to it. And these side chains is definitely going to all work together.
Yeah. And so moving on in the
Where are we?
advantages section, so it says
Smart
the
contracts.
developers managing a sidechain also have the freedom to decide how their chains work. They would choose their own validators and could change the system's rules as they need with cooperation from the sidechain validators. For example, a sidechain could operate without transaction fees or reserve requirements. It could operate without its own copy of the XRP ledger's decentralized exchange, or it could add new transaction types and functionality for storing large chunks of data on Ledger. The possibilities are limitless. A sidechain can be strictly permissioned or nearly permissionless, centralized or mostly decentralized. You could even run a sidechain temporarily while letting it manage real value and
Mm-hmm.
gracefully shut it down after it has served its purpose.
Wow.
Yeah. What's it called? There was something in there that caught my eye, but I already forgot. Oh yeah, so
The first
maybe
part, right?
yeah, well, I was gonna say maybe they could make a side chain for a AMM DEX on the XRP
Yeah,
ledger instead of
I think
building it
so.
into the mainnet. Just because I know I've seen that tossed around before.
Hmm. I
So
think they're kind of already been doing this with RippleNet for a while now.
yeah,
So as new as they're making this seem, releasing it to the public, I think that they've been doing this. This is basically how RippleNet is kind of set up. And there's regional sections of RippleNet. So as much as we think of RippleNet as a separate payment network, it's really just like sidechains connected to the main XRP ledger, and it uses just a Ripple maybe trusted validation service to get back to the ledger. I mean, you see those bulk amounts go across, like 200 million was wired from this exchange to that exchange. Those are just big custodial wallets of exchanges, and they're hosted wallets, which means they have a lot of users. And I think, the exchanges have to play a role in all this too, if they could tie them all together with XRP wallets on a sidechain, that creates like a liquidity network, basically.
Yeah, very powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
continuing on down here, so immediate advantages, horizontal scaling. Side chains can have their own fee system, their own reserve system, their own transaction capacity. Someone who wants to create a system with thousands of users that can hold XRP has a better option than being the custodian or putting all the accounts on the XRP ledger directly. So
Mm,
that's part of that scaling we were kind of talking
yeah.
about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Low risk. The XRP ledger doesn't need to change at all. Even the changes that would be helpful are quite minimal. That's very good to hear.
Good.
Low effort. Anyone who needs or wants to experiment with a blockchain can get started with a complete system ready out of the box based on powerful, stable, and sustainable XRP ledger technology. And then long roadmap. So they said new features can be added over a long period of time based on feedback on what people find interesting. This would be a continuous stream of new features and capabilities. Um,
Interesting. I wonder if you could have like a side chain that's like core to R3, like it'd be just a side chain connect like that. I mean, think of like the enterprise scale. And now you're giving them, or is it competition for things like Corda and R3? Because now you could do anything that Corda could do in a private sidechain. So I don't know if that's competition, as in when Ripple's going around to these central banks and saying, well, you want your own private network, why not build your own private customized network? That's fine, but it's tied down and anchored to this established public blockchain infrastructure that's been close 64 million ledgers and is a like an infrastructure component. And then these side chains are just privately, you know, off to the side, and you have your own customized rules and create your own customized consensus based on what your needs are,
Yeah, exactly. It's like
right?
think
I mean,
about the United States. Like let's say they
mhm,
wanted to build the digital dollar on a federated sidechain. It's like, well, they could set
yeah,
up who they want to have the validators. They could make it in a way that's like governed by all the states. So the states have validators and stuff like kind of how our voting system's set up.
yeah,
However a certain government wants to set it up, they could do that. You could put them at military bases, and nuclear bunkers, whatever you need to do so that the network is always running. But it would
yeah,
add a lot of added function. It would give a lot of added functionality for the U.S. government to,
and the testing
do
too.
monetary policy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and the testing.
Yeah, and they could test so many different like types of systems very easily, different kind of configurations. It really makes it very easy, or it's I don't know. I think that central banks this would appeal to, and even commercial banks to build their own like applications for their customers. Because remember, we're getting into a world of tokenization here, institutional DeFi. This has institutional DeFi like written all over it. I mean, you could create a totally different capital markets now with tokenization on these private sidechains. You create a stock exchange on the private sidechain. You could do all different types of things. So, automated market liquidity pools, derivatives applications. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of what could be created application-wise. And we haven't seen too many XRP applications. And as a community, that's one thing I always said is there's not too many applications that utilize XRP. And now this, besides payments, this now opens the door wide open. It kicks the door open so far wide that it's wider than any other door.
Yeah.
Put it that way. I think for blockchains, and it really doesn't. It's a complement to Flare, and it's not a competition of, well, is Flare better than the XRP ledger? These are all going to be compatible, composable, and complementary to each other. So the XRPL isn't done. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like each blockchain may have some unique characteristic that it's going to be better used for, and people will flock to that more maybe than some other blockchain. But,
Mm-hmm.
if you can connect all them and, move value seamlessly, then we can start building like a global financial system where,
Mm-hmm.
maybe certain things are located in certain areas. As like, who knows if the blockchains in like the long term future are going to have all the scalability we need, or like we're going to need multiple blockchains with different things going on them. So
Exactly. This is why there's no one blockchain winner. Everyone's like, well, it's not going to be Bitcoin. It's be everything's going to run on the ledger. Well, no, not everything's going to run on the ledger. It's going to run above the ledger or in these side chains. And look at what Polkadot's doing. They're creating 100 parachains. Concept still the same, is similar in that way. Cosmos, with the way Kava is built on the Cosmos SDK, the RippleX SDK or Spring SDK is going to be an easy software development kit so that developers can easily implement these sidechains. So I think Ripple will provide all the tools and the library and all the devs. What do you think they've been working on for 2 to 3 years and funding hundreds of $1 million for, is to set up a platform to easily spin up these sidechains. So I don't think this is like a far out project. I think that, you know, they're pretty close to, you know, getting this thing going. I think this is after the case, you know, you're saying like a rapid ramp up. Like I think Forte was always planning to do this, and some other things that they invested in that you just haven't heard about yet.
Yep, absolutely. It does seem like, it's something they've been working on for a while. This
Yeah.
is like pretty in depth right here, and it seems like they know the path they want to take. So kind of,
Pay string, and think of all the things that could tie into people's wallets. You could get regulatory compliance with self-sovereign digital identities, with that global ID. It handles all the compliance aspects too, that certain public blockchains have a problem with complying. And now this kind of solves that in a way. So, I mean, I guess the best comparison, I don't know, Patty, is like, you know how Flare Finance is its own DApp ecosystem?
mhm.
Kind of these sidechains will be like their own ecosystem, except the difference is Flare Finance piggybacks their consensus and their security model off of Flare itself, where these sidechains will have their own potential consensus and rules and other things that could be separate from the XRP ledger, where the dApps on Flare have to follow still the protocol of the Flare network itself. So see how they're different, but I feel like they're just like perfect complements to each other.
Yeah, and I mean, you can kind of, so like Flare Finance is a layer 2 dApp. I could
Yeah.
almost see these side chains as like layer 1B or something like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the main thing, but like they're saying horizontal scalability,
Mm-hmm.
like they're going out instead of on top, like in just kind of a visual
Yeah.
sense.
Like the agents could be their own sidechain. The signal providers could be their own sidechain. We don't know. I mean, those are very easy, to think about how a group of agents could then be the sidechain for the XRP ledger, which would then connect to the Flare network. And that would create that two-way bridge there.
Yeah, I mean, they could maybe solve some custody issues like they were talking
Yes.
up here,
Yeah.
yeah, where it may be preferable. So
Mm-hmm.
that'll be all interesting things to see as
Exciting.
entities start making use of this. But yeah, to finish up, so this is the last section, changes to the XRP ledger. So succeeding in this vision requires a few changes that wouldn't be used on the XRP ledger itself in order to support the sidechain features. The primary change to the software would be to support the unique node list being stored in the ledger. Pseudo transactions to change the UNL would be needed. A hint UNL would need to be supported to avoid the chicken and egg problem of needing the UNL to get the ledger and the ledger to get the UNL. So that's
Yeah.
that's a little
Well,
a little
beyond
confusing,
our,
but yeah.
let's just not, we'll skip over that part for now, because that's a lot to take in. We're gonna have to read into that one more,
Yeah,
but
if
I
somebody
don't
has
even
a
want to digress
breakdown,
that.
leave it in the comments.
I'm sure Matt Hamilton and Ripple will put out
A dev
documentation
and a
on
Twitch
this. They'll,
dev. Yeah.
I'm sure Twitch will cover this tomorrow. This is the first release. David Schwartz wrote it, so it's David Schwartz like. But this is really powerful. I mean, if you're not excited about this as an XRP holder, well then you don't know what you hold. So
Yeah, I
you
mean,
should
this is
know
like
what
as
you
big as
hold.
news as we could get.
Yeah, this is as big as an expansion of XRP ledger and use cases possible. It's something we kind of knew was coming, but now they kind of broke it down on like actually it's happening, and they're going to do it. This is the expansion of their gateway model, what gateways were supposed to be and what Codius was supposed to be. They just combined all that into just sidechains. They just stuffed it all in there. This is what Codius is. Codius could be any one of those sidechains configured as smart oracles. That would be a network of signal providers. That would be a smart oracle network. And then they can run smart contracts. So you might see some signal providers to be a sidechain in the XRP ledger. I mean, and it opens up more investable options for us. That's what I find really fascinating, is that it's not just about XRP's capital appreciation. It's one thing I learned basically when Flare went live, is that there's more ways to make money and earn yield, not financial advice, but then just XRP. It's the ecosystem that gets built around it. And this is what had to do with our escrow talk this morning, of how that escrow could be utilized to incentivize these sidechains to use XRP in all different types of ways, especially on the enterprise side.
Yeah, and I just think about, so like let's say that Ripple does want to use the XRP escrow for some incentive mechanism. I mean, they
Hmm.
could do tests, like very small tests on a side chain to see, like, before they fully implement, we're going to go this route using the escrow as an incentive for this use case or something.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
it kind of does provide a real world test bed where maybe the stakes aren't as high as figuring it out immediately on the main net and how it should be
Hmm.
used.
Exactly. So the question, I mean, I guess here's some questions that I would have. Is RippleX building their own? Like, is there going to be one that they build a special side chain for a specific use case? Are there going to be other stakeholders who build one? But is there going to be like a RippleX specific side chain? Like, I don't know. I get that feeling. And is RippleNet going to finally come out as, a grouping of side chains? I wonder how they're going to market all that. Like, I'm curious to see how that will go down. And if then they'll try to get, that's why they're doing this whole grant program with all these new use cases for XRP, because now they're going to have sidechains and smart contracts to work with. You can create any type of smart contract you want now. You're free to do whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, so Ripple's like developers that work for them that build on the XRP ledger are doing this because they think that there's a business opportunity for the Ripple company to, capitalize on helping different entities, build out a sidechain or use it for their own reasons. So like there's probably some kind of market for this, I would imagine. Otherwise, it just seems like a lot to take on without like any
Hmm.
kind of guaranteed ROI. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if there are already people planning to work on these.
Yeah,
Um,
and remember, Ripple is a blockchain infrastructure company. They're building infrastructure. That's what they're doing here. So they're expanding a network to give it capabilities that will be even beyond just the regular Ethereum public network, but it will always have this fast payment network at its heart, and it doesn't make any changes to that. And I think that's what David Schwartz stresses there. It's like it leaves everything alone that's great about the XRP ledger, and it adds all these new functionalities because they knew smart contracts going to be a thing. They weren't ignoring it. They were just ready. They were building the infrastructure to support specialized use cases and applications with smart contracts and smart programs. We get to a next level. Right now, they're really just dumb contracts. Once they'll become intelligent contracts, then you can run machine learning and AI in these different networks and side chains.
yeah.
Yeah,
And to keep,
very exciting.
yeah. and
I'm very excited. I can, when you first brought this up as we were about to go live, we saw this. Holy, this is crazy. So I hope everyone enjoyed this live stream and this breakdown that we did.
Yeah, it was definitely different, but I was kind of like, either we push this back and read through it because we didn't want to
Nah,
wait to
do
go
it.
through it. So like, let's just go through with people live, and hopefully it's something y'all enjoyed. While we're almost done here, but just a couple other things from here. So some updating to the threshold creation and multi-signing keys. For the federators would need to be supported, and then probably some API enhancements to help with the communication between the side chains and the federators. Additionally, it says XRP Ledger mainnet could also use a flag to indicate whether an issued asset was permitted to federate or not. So that makes sense, kind of just knowing where things came from. Some asset issuers, for example, might insist that all holders of their assets be directly represented on the main chain for regulatory purposes, while others could allow their assets to freely trade on side chains. It's always possible to privately allocate some of your own resources to others with or without a sidechain to automate the process, but the legal responsibilities of doing so can vary based on jurisdiction and circumstance. Sidechains would have a special entry in their ledgers that tracks the last sidechain transaction that has been executed on the main chain and the last main chain transaction that has been executed on the sidechain. And then when federators see a new transaction on the side chain that affects the main chain, they coordinate the submission of that transaction to the main chain. When federators see a new transaction on the main chain that affects the side chain, they coordinate the submission of that transaction to the main chain. So this is basically how all the main net of the XRP ledger is basically going to track what's happening with like XRP on the side chains, and then side chains tracking what's happening on the XRP ledger mainnet or on some other side chain. They say making these changes is probably the biggest part of this effort because even though they won't be enabled on XRP Ledger, there's still risk associated with changing the software. For example, some existing code may need to be moved or adjusted, which carries the risk of inadvertently changing behavior. The outline strategy
Interesting.
is a starting point to gather feedback from the XRP Ledger community. We invite developers and contributors to the community to comment below. Let's build a roadmap for innovative new use cases together.
Hmm.
So that's pretty
Very
great.
interesting. It sounds like Flare's a super side chain that kind of came out beforehand for a specific use case to tackle the whole Ethereum thing. And, I mean, just by your description there at the end, it describes a lot of what Flare does. Flare does digest the whole XRP ledger. It's just the XRP ledger doesn't digest Flare's information. So it's kind of a separate side chain. It's like a special side chain. I guess you could look at Flare as. I mean, that
I mean,
conversation has to be in. It's different, though. It is
because it's
different.
not a fork. It's not like a hard fork,
You're
which is
right.
what they're
It's not a
suggesting
fork.
here. So, yeah, just to make
Oh,
sure to not
mhm.
confuse people, but the
Yeah,
way it's
not confused.
operating with the connection definitely is in the same
It's like,
vein as what they're creating
yes,
here. So,
yes, with a couple little tweaks. It's its own kind of, it's its own, Flare is its own.
yeah.
That's
And
what's different.
I think maybe before, I don't know if you have much else. I was just going to go over. So David
Hmm.
Schwartz put out a little tweet thread on this that
Oh, nice.
we could take a
Yeah,
look
go
at
through it.
here. So, yeah, today he said I introduced my vision for adding federated sidechains to the XRP ledger, which means a lot of things, but essentially that anyone who wants to can run a sidechain. The federator is software that acts as a bridge between at least two instances of the XRP ledger, i.e., the XRPL mainnet and one or more sidechains, like they're saying. This concept would allow each sidechain to have its own ledger, as well as its own federation system that allows XRP and issued tokens to move from one chain to another. So he says Bitcoin, fiat, anything really. So we could say like tokenized assets. Doing so can, in theory, enable developers to implement features like smart contract functionality off of the XRP ledger, meaning less risk of harming the network while maintaining its existing feature set, faster deployment, and access to real assets. A number of things would need to happen in order to make this a reality. And then he lists some of that stuff we just went through. And of course, this vision is a starting point. I look forward to any feedback on ways to improve the proposal and make sidechains on the XRP ledger feasible. Yeah, so
Wow.
it's pretty great.
Wow.
I'm just very excited to see what some people are going to come out with this.
Yeah, this blows open the use cases for XRP. And this is one of the reasons why you got to stop. Well, I'm not going to be negative. I'm going to be positive. That the XRP is not going to be taken away from you. XRP is meant to be used in as many ways as possible. And you could see this directly here with what they're building with the sidechains. Doesn't mean it's going to be just on some private network. There's going to be open source sidechains. There's going to be super decentralized sidechains. There'll be, centralized ones, but it's based on flexibility. So it could be used in so many different ways. So it's not just for just banks to use on a central bank or CBDCs. They can use it too, but you need to diversify and distribute out the XRP as much as possible so that it's not just held in one, grouping's hands. And Ripple has no intentions to hold it and sell it. And we went through that. You should watch our earlier video if you're interested in anything to do with the escrow and the distribution of the seigniorage of Ripple's XRP 45 billion and how that'll be utilized. But I think, some of these side chains, I think are going to come up pretty quick. I think they're already ready, like Forte. I posted yesterday on Twitter, the 4K.com, which is it's a physical to digital interoperable marketplace. So something like that would be a side chain, Patty.
Yeah.
Is an option there. The connection with the agents to the Flare network could be a side chain potential. I'm just throwing these up here, what could be built already. Forte itself, probably a side chain. And then there's also the proposal of Ripple wants to implement NFTs into the ledger. We covered that in the past. I'm not sure if we did a video on that fully, Patty, maybe a live stream.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're going to implement NFTs actually into the ledger.
Yes, yeah.
So it'll have its own type and it'll be able to compete with Ethereum. So combine that now. So NFTs actually built into the ledger with all these side chains. I mean, you open up unlimited possibilities on tokenization, different type of institutional DeFi and trading marketplaces. This is why trading now on sidechains, I think, will take over from these stupid cloud-hosted databases that work now on centralized exchanges, which is old tech. And now new tech would be running actually exchanges on maybe the sidechains.
Yeah, that is very true. You could definitely do that. I was kind of thinking like ICE or NASDAQ could,
Yeah,
run one of their exchanges on something like that.
yeah.
Not that
hmm
they have to. I'm just saying it's
Issue
definitely a
security
use case.
tokens,
Yeah, exactly.
issue security tokens from like Securitize, um, issuing bonds, issuing different types of assets on there. Could be done on these sidechains, natively, or if they're representations like Sologenic, for example, like they're a perfect example. I
Yeah.
mean, issuing tokenized assets, how is their DEX going to be built? It'll probably be a sidechain too.
Yeah, that'll be
They're a good
interesting to see.
example. Maybe
Yeah.
casino coin, and a lot of people are into. That could be a sidechain too. There you go. So, I mean, these are all different use cases, how these projects can expand outwards since they're already on the ledger. And we're going to see a lot. One thing I think this will bring is a lot of new devs, because now they'll see, oh, whoa, I can build smart contracts with fast payments, and I could create my own customized network. That's really attractive.
Yeah, I think just like the ability to like build it on the side and do kind of whatever you want to do with it with like the underlying tech of the XRP ledger already there for you to build on top of
hmm
is a powerful incentive for people to come
Yeah,
over. So,
absolutely.
yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but
This was a
yeah,
great live stream. I enjoyed this
absolutely.
one.
Well, yeah, appreciate. I know we didn't get into as many questions
Yeah.
today, but we'll be doing more throughout the week. And just a reminder that there's 4 days until the last claim date and the last date to set your Ethereum message key. And then we also saw that tweet from the beginning. If y'all missed it, Ledger Nano, or sorry, Towo Labs tweeted out that actually I still have it up here. They kind of that Ledger Nano was doing some kind of GitHub merger with a Towo Labs file that had to do with adding support for the Flare network to the Spark token. So I'm hoping that that means there might be an announcement soon, and that you'll have the Spark application on your Ledger Nano, and you can deal with it from there if you like to. So aside from that, I'm Patty XRP, and I'm here with.
Oh, can I
Oh
just
yeah, yeah,
throw
go
one
ahead.
more
Yeah.
thing? Tomorrow night, there's gonna be an
Oh
AMA. Do
yes.
you want to give that about with Hugo tomorrow night for
Yeah,
everybody?
so it's going to be late, but Dogecoin Militia, the guy that just hosted the one with Flare Finance on Twitter Spaces, he got Hugo to come back. It's going to be at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So technically not the 8th, it would be like early morning on the 9th. But yeah, me and Mickey will be on there to ask questions. Definitely try and get some answered about the
And
F
we'll
asset system for sure. And then
and we'll
we're also gonna I'm
mhm.
gonna record it, and then we'll get it posted on our channel afterwards, so you guys can watch the next day if that's in the middle of the night for you.
Yeah, good. Because this is the first time we've had a chance to ask Hugo
In
questions
a while,
in
yeah,
many months. In many months. So I look forward to that, and hopefully we get some more information about the Flare network. So even if you can't make it, I know that's really late for people on the East Coast and really early in the morning for those in the UK. But we will have it recorded and we'll put it on the channel afterwards. So that's next. And then tomorrow we'll do another live stream and we'll break down some more of the federated blockchain, the side
awesome,
chains
yeah,
in a recorded video. All right, everyone.
sounds great. All right,
All right.
well that'll do it for today, guys. We'll catch you in the next episode we do. So everyone have a great day.